Exodus 1. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Okay, so first, this now, your translation might just say these are the names, and this now is important, or and would probably be even a better word. This is telling you that we are connecting it back to Genesis. This book continues the story. We're not starting a new story. We're continuing. So, and these are the names. So when you come out of Genesis 50, and you're saying, okay, here's Joseph, and he's laid to rest and all this stuff, and these are the names. Okay, so this is a continuation. This is how it's supposed to be. All right, and then the names of the sons. So we call this book Exodus because this is the story of the people of Israel exiting out of Egypt ultimately. Okay, but in Hebrew, apparently, it's actually the names. So it's actually named names. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so that's the thing. All right, so now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the souls who came out of Jacob's body were 70 souls, and Joseph was in Egypt already. Now, if you hear that word 70, that should be setting off alarms in your head because you're like, wait a second, I've heard of this before. Okay, so for instance, we have the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Egypt, were 2 souls, and all the souls of the house of Jacob who came into Egypt were 70. This is from Genesis, okay? So, we've already seen this. We've already told you that this is the case. But we also have 70 from chapter 10 of Genesis. Okay, and you just have to read through the names of all of the sons and all the people who are begat and all that kind of stuff. But this is the total number of nations. This is called the Table of Nations. And there are some textual differences if you go looking for them between different versions of the Bible. Some will have 70, some will have 72, I believe. And it's all in how you count things. All right. But then also, we're getting our house. Okay. But also here, apparently it's 70 or 75, depending on how you look at it. And there's a lot of textual stuff. You can go looking into that if you want. There's a lot of work to be done there. But right now we're sticking with 70 because 70 is going to tie back to what we've already read. And then also that 70 for the Table of Nations. So it's everybody. It's a number of completion. Okay. It's everybody who's going through that. Okay. So, and Joseph's already there, right? Because we know that. Okay. All right. And Joseph died, as did his brothers, and all that generation. Okay. The children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now, if you are a good Bible reader, this should be setting off alarms in your head as well, because if we go back to Genesis 1, we have the command from God, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. Okay. So we're supposed to fill the earth. And then what's interesting is that as you read Genesis, we're actually having trouble doing this thing of being fruitful and increasing and multiplying. That's one of the major stories after the fall is now we can't do this. We're having trouble with it. But now that we're in Egypt, this is happening. We're finally getting there. We're doing the thing that God commanded way back. We are looking forward to the awesomeness that this is going to bring. This is fantastic. We finally have the thing that we're supposed to do. It's great, and we're filling the land. But we're not filling the earth, we're filling the land. And what land are we filling? Egypt. So how are they feeling? Now there arose a new king over Egypt who didn't know Joseph. He said to his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Uh-oh, this doesn't look good. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it happen that when war breaks out, they also join themselves to our enemies and fight against us and escape out of our land. So are they happy that things are going well for Israel? No. And this is potentially due to the social political stuff that's going on. Now, if you look in the text here, now there arose a new king over Egypt. Do we have any idea who he is? No, the text does not tell us. The text is very intentional at not letting us know what king we're talking about. That is not the point of this text. And there's a lot of scholarly debate about why that would be. And, it certainly makes it easier to be like, hey, we're just making stuff up, right? Okay. But in this case, it is entirely possible, and a lot of scholars seem to be landing on this, that this is around the time of the Hyksos, or however you say that, in Egypt, which were a Semitic group, and the Jews, being Semitic as well, they are part of this group. And if it is true that Joseph comes into power and then gets to be second in command, that he would then start, getting other people potentially into positions of power, and ultimately, it is possible that this is how the Hebrews came to take over for a brief period of time, leading Egypt. Okay. And then Egypt comes and says, we actually don't want Semitic people groups to be reigning over us. We want to be reigning over ourselves, so let's kick them out. In which case, this new king wouldn't know Joseph and wouldn't care about him anyway, if this is the case. Now, if you are like, okay, cool, so when did this happen? Which king is this? Dating it and all that stuff? I really like what one scholar says, Dr. Michael Heiser. He was really into the history and like when did this happen and stuff when he was younger. And then as he got older, he said, what you learn is that this is just a quagmire. So feel free to go down the rabbit hole, but it's just a mess, apparently. I'll take his word for it. I'm not that interested in that particular topic. It's not my area of interest. But that's a thing that's going on here. Okay, but what is he doing? He's saying we need to make certain that we're dealing with them, because otherwise they could fight against us and then even leave. And we don't want them to leave. We like them being here and working for us. Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens. They built storage cities for Pharaoh, Pithom, and Ramses. Whether this is Ramses and the naming of it, and was it renamed later, and was it actually just a storehouse or a store city, or is it actually like, important cities where you're doing trade and that kind of stuff, more of that, okay? But naming could have been renamed, all that stuff. So that doesn't help you necessarily figure out when this is taking place. Okay. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread out. They, that's the Egyptians, started to dread the children of Israel. Okay? So even as the king of Egypt is starting to be like, hey, I'm going to enslave you, and we're going to make it so that you guys don't have time to procreate. We're going to make your lives so busy that you can't make more babies, okay? That's how we're going to stop this, okay? We're going to get taskmasters, and we're just going to make your life hard, okay? We're going to afflict you, but the more they're multiplying, okay? Which actually this, if we go to Genesis 15, God actually promises and says, hey, yeah, they're going to get afflicted for 400 years. This is going to happen, all right? And at the same time, back in 13, God said, I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring may also be counted, okay? Like, wow, yeah, that's a lot of offspring. There's so much dust in the earth, okay? So here, we're finally fulfilling that promise, and the promise actually also of like, hey, this is going to happen. And here we are. We're afflicted, and they're still spreading out. Okay. The Egyptians ruthlessly made the children of Israel serve, and they made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and in brick, and in all kinds of service in the field, all their service in which they ruthlessly made them serve. So the attempt is, let's just make them so busy, they don't have time for kids. That's not going to happen. Okay? That's attempt number one. Okay. The king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. This is unfortunately, that plan didn't work, so now we got to do something about it, okay? Spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you perform the duty of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, then you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live. All right, and what we're depicting here is the birthing stool. So today, at least in America and the West, if you're having a baby, then you, as the woman, lay on your back with stirrups, your feet in the air, and the doctors say, hey, this is easier for us, so you push the baby uphill against gravity and get this baby out. It's absolutely awful, okay? I've been to some births, and yeah, like, why? Why are we doing this to ourselves? it was far better, and most of the rest of the world does this. You let women kind of crouch down, maybe hang over a chair or something, or on a ball or something, which then allows gravity to help you get the baby out. Like this makes perfect sense. We should do this, okay? And so then you have the stool for the midwife who's there watching over, helping make this thing happen. Okay, so she's there at the birth. And when the baby comes out, she's supposed to check. And if it's a boy, you just kill it. Okay, whether that's a snap in the neck or slice it or whatever. Okay, and then, but if it's a girl, you can let this live. Because boys, of course, are going to grow up and they could be in the military and fight, right? And that's what he's worried about. He's worried about them fighting with their enemies. So that wouldn't be good. So let's just get rid of the boys. Also, without boys, you can't start making more kids in the future, right? So we're just gonna stop this here at birth. We're just gonna stop that happening. Okay. All right. Shifra, by the way, is bright and fair. That's what her name means. Bright, fair, kind of shiny, right? Okay. And then also we have Pua, which is glittery and splendid. That's what their names mean in Hebrew. Okay. All right. So, okay. But the midwives feared God and didn't do what the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the baby boys alive. Okay, so it says that these are the Hebrew midwives, but that doesn't mean that they themselves are Hebrew. Okay. In fact, would the king even expect Hebrew women to be like, yeah, I'll go kill some of my own countrymen? Literally all the men, the countrymen of this thing, right? Like, would he expect that? Or are these Egyptians who are over the midwives for this thing? Like, that's unclear. But here where it says that the midwives feared God, I just wonder, because we have here in Exodus 9, later on we'll get to this, but those who feared Yahweh's word among the servants of Pharaoh made their servants and livestock come in because Moses said, hey, look, bring them in, otherwise they're going to die. Okay, so it's possible, I think this is potential evidence for the fact that these are actually Egyptian women who are actually ignoring their own Pharaoh. But either way, these women would probably be afraid for their lives, whether they're Hebrew or Egyptian, but at the same time, they feared God more. And they didn't do that. Okay? So they let the boys live. The king of Egypt called, this is, I believe, summoned. Okay? I believe, yeah, this is the word summon. We're going to come to this more and more, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Okay. He summoned the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and saved the boys alive? The midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women aren't like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous and give birth before the midwife comes to them. Now, there are a lot of scholars who are like, but they're actually probably telling the truth, and that the Hebrew women really were more vigorous than the Egyptian women. And I just see no reason for that. Maybe, but that seems reaching. Instead, far more likely, they're just telling Pharaoh a story to appease him. Like, they're just making stuff up. Okay, yeah, we just can't even make it in time. The babies are already there. Like, and we're supposed to kill them when they're coming out, but like they're already out. So like, what are we gonna do, right? Like, can't blame us. God dealt well with the midwives. And the people multiplied and grew very mighty, because the midwives feared God. He gave them families. Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, you shall cast every son who is born into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. Okay, so what we have here is that God actually blesses these midwives for fearing him more than Pharaoh. It's not about the morality of this choice to do that. Although I think that we're totally within our moral rights to be like, yeah, I'm just going to tell you what you needed to hear because whatever. But there are other Christians who disagree with that. Okay. There's a lot of discussion about this. I've had some of that discussion in the comments in other videos recently. But the point here is that God is like, you honor me more than Pharaoh? Excellent. And he gave them families. Because who has time to go and help other women have babies? Well, it's those who are either older or those who can't have babies themselves. Otherwise, you're running around with your kids. Like, having babies and having kids is busy. It's some busy work right there, okay? So God actually blesses them and gives them families, okay? And now Pharaoh is like, okay, enough with the pretense. We are going to go on, and it is time to bring out full-on war. Just kill them. Just kill them by throwing them into the Nile. We're going to do that. Okay, so Chapter 2. A man of the house of Levi went and took a daughter of Levi as his wife. The woman conceived and bore a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him 3 months. Here's another instance where the text actually just makes it hard for us to see the link back to the Old Testament here. Or, we're already in there, so sorry. Back to Genesis, okay? When she saw that he was a fine child, okay? This is actually when she saw that he was good. She hid him for 3 months. When she saw that he was good. Genesis 1:4. God saw the light and he saw that it was good. And then again and again. God saw that it was good. All right? We're bringing us back now to the actual story of creation itself. Okay? So we're going back to that. We're linking back to that here. All right? All right. When she could no longer hide him, she took a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and with pitch. Okay, this word papyrus basket is literally the same word as ark in Genesis. And pitch, which that should also be firing off the idea for you of Genesis 6, all right? You're supposed to make a ship, an ark, okay? And you shall make it, and you shall cover it outside with pitch. Same word. Ark and pitch. All right. So we're linking back also, not just to creation, but also to the flood story now. Like, wait, we're linking, we're doing a lot of links. Like, what's going on right now? But we're linking it back to that. Okay. She put the child in and laid it in the reeds of the river bank. Okay. Reeds of the river bank? Does that sound familiar? Well, if we go to Genesis 41, Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, "In my dream, behold, I stood on the brink of the river." Other translations have it far clearer, okay? And they came up out of the marsh grass, okay? They come up out of the reeds. It's not the same word, but it's the same idea of we're on the bank of the river, and we're here with the reeds and all that stuff. Linking back to, again, this thing with Joseph and all that, like the dream about what got us here in the first place, okay? His sister stood far off to see what would be done to him. Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river. Her maidens walked along by the riverside. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her servant to get it. She opened it and saw the child, and behold, the baby cried. She had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." All right, I'm just going to go on a little wild walk for a minute here, okay? So back in Genesis 21, we have the story of Hagar, and she leaves with her son. And then she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about a bow shot away, for she said, "Don't let me see the death of the child." She sat opposite him and lifted up her voice and wept, and God heard the voice of the boy, or the boy crying. The angel of God called to Hagar out of the sky and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Don't be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Get up, lift up the boy, and hold him with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation." God was with the boy as he grew. He lived in the wilderness, and his mother got a wife for him out of the land of Egypt. Okay, now all of that is some interesting things, but this just connects to so many different passages. Okay, you led the people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Okay, that is from Psalm 77. Okay, so there's that by the hand thing. Okay, but then we also have the fact that in Genesis 41, Joseph gets Asenath, whatever, from Egypt as a wife, right? So we have all of this language, right? All these different words that are just linking back. And so I wonder if there's some more connections here. Those aren't as explicit, but I just wonder. It was just a thing I thought was great. Okay, so we have, this is one of the Hebrew children. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Should I go and call a nurse for you? Should I summon," there's that word again, okay, "for you from the Hebrew women that she may nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." The young woman went and called the child's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." The woman took the child and nursed it. The child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses and said, "Because I drew him out of the water. All right, now there's a lot going on here, but let's just focus in on Moses for a minute. So Moses is is actually going to be an Egyptian name, but in the if you take the name and you listen to what it sounds like in Hebrew, it sounds like the word for draw out. Okay, not to be drawn out, but to draw out. So what we have is this interesting thing where we're actually projecting the story that's going to happen because Moses is going to draw the people of Israel out of Egypt. So we're setting up the story even with his name. But that's the Hebrew of this. He's getting named, so it's an Egyptian name, and the Egyptian name means to be born of. And so it's possible that his name was actually like Moshe or something, Moshe something Ra or Moshe of the river or whatever. So he was born of the river. But this born of, right, would really just mean like child or like boy. Okay, so I wonder if Moses is actually a shortened version of his name. And it's just there, right? Like just setting up this story. And so his name is used by the authors, this name here, to set up the destiny of where we're going. But it's more than that. Because what we have is he is put into a basket, set into the river, and then rescued by royalty. And today, we think, at least I always thought as a kid, I was like, wow, thank goodness that all worked out well, right? like this is the story of how God watches over people who are, that he's going to use. And so this has to be like a story of God's provision or something. Well, there actually are other stories that this is tapping into, because there are other stories of babies getting placed in baskets and then rescued by royalty. And those people go on to be superstars. Those people go on to be great people. So instead of this being the story of God's miraculous provision and watching out for the child, this is actually the story of setting up a hero who's going to go on and do some amazing things. The fact that he's put in an ark, in a basket, and then sent down the river and rescued is setting him up for a great destiny. Just like his name here, Draw Out, is a poetic, fun way of setting up what's about to happen. Okay, one more thing to mention, because I think it's really cool. All of this happens because Pharaoh is very concerned about the men coming and causing problems for him. So he's trying to get rid of the baby boys. And this entire story, he is constantly getting thwarted by women. He's thwarted by the midwives, by Moses' mom, by his own daughter. Okay, one of his own daughters thwarts him. It is all women. Miriam. Okay, all the women are the ones who are thwarting Pharaoh and stopping his plans from working, which is just great, right? That's just phenomenal. All right, that's what we have for today, setting up what's to come here in Exodus.